I want to tell you something that the garden industry does not want you to know. The backyard that looks like it cost $40,000 to design and install. The one with the layered planting and the warm evening lighting and the defined zones and the surfaces that all seem to belong together. That backyard is not expensive because of what was spent on it. It is expensive looking because of the decisions made inside it. The gravel is just gravel. The timber is just timber. The plants are the same plants available at the same nursery everyone else shops at. What makes it look expensive is the placement, the repetition, the finish, the lighting, the edit, and none of those things cost what people assume they cost. Here is what today's video is. 15 backyard ideas, plus a few extras because this list kept growing every time I thought it was done. That looked like serious money and cost almost nothing. Not cheap shortcuts, not things that look good in a photo and disappointing in person. Actual ideas that hold up in real life, in real backyards, for real people who are not working with a landscape architect's budget. Welcome to Daily Garden Fix. Let's make your backyard look like you spent a fortune. Understand that like button right now, because this list was genuinely hard to cut down. Every idea on it passed one test. Does it look more expensive than it is? Not slightly more. Significantly more. The kind of gap between cost and perceived value that makes people ask who did your garden and genuinely not believe the answer when you tell them. Stay to the end, because idea number 14 is the one that costs the least and delivers the most visual impact of anything on this entire list. Most people walk past the materials every single day without realizing what they're looking at. Here we go. Idea number 1. Define every zone with a different surface. Idea number 1. And it starts here because this is the principle that separates a backyard that looks designed from one that just looks like a yard. Expensive gardens are zoned. They have a dining area and a lounging area and a planting area and a pathway. And each zone reads as distinct from the others because the surface changes between them. Grass to gravel, gravel to paving, paving to timber decking tiles. The moment a backyard has more than one surface material, the eye reads it as planned, as intentional, as the work of someone who thought carefully about how each part of the space would be used. Decomposed granite for the pathway and the fire pit zone. Large format concrete pavers, dry set, no mortar for the dining area. A section of interlocking composite decking tiles over the existing concrete near the back door. 3 materials, 3 zones. One backyard that reads as a designed outdoor living space rather than a patch of ground with furniture on it. The cost of zoning is the cost of the surface materials. Decomposed granite runs under $1 per square foot. Dry set pavers cost $2 to $4 per square foot in materials without labor. Composite decking tiles interlock without tools. The professional look comes from the decision to change surfaces between zones, not from the price of the surfaces themselves. Budget, $50 to $150 depending on area. The foundational idea that makes every other idea on this list look more expensive. Idea number 2, plant in drifts, not dots. Idea number 2, the planting principle that professional garden designers charge hundreds of dollars an hour to apply, and that costs nothing beyond the decision to use it. Most home gardeners plant individually. One salvia here, one lavender there, one ornamental grass in the corner. The result is a border that looks busy and unresolved, a collection of plants rather than a planting. The dots of color and texture compete with each other rather than supporting each other, and the overall effect is one of effort without coherence. Professional planting looks different because it is organized into drifts, loose, flowing groups of the same plant repeated in odd numbers of 3, 5, or 7. A drift of 5 lavender plants flowing from one end of the border. A drift of 3 ornamental grasses anchoring the middle. A drift of 7 catmint threading through both and connecting them. The repetition of the same plant in a group creates rhythm. The rhythm creates the sense of intention. The intention is what makes planting look expensive. Buy fewer varieties in larger quantities. 3 lavender plants cost the same as 3 different plants, but 3 lavender plants together look considered and deliberate in a way that one of each never does. Odd numbers. Flowing groups. Repeated across the border. The planting principle that transforms a collection into a composition. Budget, the same as you were already planning to spend. Zero additional cost for a dramatically different result. Idea number 3. Install solar festoon lights on guide wires. Idea number 3. The evening upgrade that makes every surface, every plant, and every zone in the backyard look completely different after dark, and that runs every night automatically for free. Solar festoon lights, strung overhead between guide wires, create the single most impactful lighting transformation available in any outdoor space at any budget. The warm overhead glow, 2,700 Kelvin, the tone of candlelight, makes the backyard feel like a destination after dark rather than simply a garden that is too dark to use. Run 2 lengths of tension galvanized wire between screw-in eye bolts fixed to fence posts or timber uprights. Stretch the wires parallel, approximately 1.5 meters apart, at a height of 2.5 to 3 meters above the ground. Drape the festoon string in a gentle catenary curve between the 2 wires, not pulled taut, but with a natural relaxed drop that mimics the way professional installations hang lights in outdoor dining spaces. Set the string to dusk on, dawn off using the integrated solar timer. From that first evening forward, the backyard lights itself. Every night, without a switch, without a running cost, and without a single cable running to a power outlet. The same lighting effect in a restaurant terrace or a professional garden installation costs hundreds of dollars in labor and materials. The solar version, identical visual impact, costs $25 to $50 and installs in 2 hours. Budget, $25 to $50. The upgrade that extends the usable hours of your backyard every single evening. Idea number 4. Edge every bed with steel strip edging. Idea number 4. The detail so small that most people never consciously register it, and so significant that professional garden designers consider it non-negotiable in every project they work on. Clean edges. The thin, precise line between a lawn and a planted border. Between a gravel path and a bed of ornamental grass. Between a paved zone and a sweep of ground cover. That line, when it is sharp and consistent and permanent, is what makes a garden look maintained and considered at every scale. Steel edging strip. Thin gauge corten or galvanized steel in a continuous roll, installed by pushing into the ground with a rubber mallet to a consistent depth of 4 to 5 inches, the top edge sitting half an inch above surrounding soil. It follows any curve without kinking. It never rots, never lifts in frost, and never needs replacing. The corten version weathers to a warm amber tone in the first season. The galvanized stays silver gray permanently. Before steel edging, beds look soft and undefined. After steel edging, the same beds look like they were designed and installed by a professional. The plants did not change. The gravel did not change. The lawn did not change. Only the line between them. And that line is everything. Budget, $30 to $60 for a standard backyard perimeter. The detail that makes the whole garden look finished. Idea number 5, build a dry riverbed feature. Idea number 5. The landscape feature that looks like it was designed by a professional, costs almost nothing to install, and solves one of the most common backyard drainage problems at the same time. A dry riverbed is a sculpted channel of smooth river pebbles and decorative stone laid in a naturally winding course across the garden, mimicking the path a real stream would take through the landscape. It reads as a deliberate, designed feature of significant character. It also functions as a surface drainage channel, directing water away from low points and soggy areas toward a suitable outlet after heavy rain. Mark a winding course across the garden using a garden hose laid on the ground to find the natural line. Excavate the channel 8 to 10 inches deep and twice as wide as the finished feature will be. Lay landscape fabric across the base and sides. Fill the base with angular gravel for drainage. Layer smooth river pebbles on top in varying sizes. Larger stones at the outer edges of the channel, smaller pebbles at the center, mimicking the natural distribution of stone in a real watercourse. Plant the banks of the dry riverbed with ornamental grasses, low sedums, and spreading ground cover that overhang the stone edges slightly, softening the boundary between the planted bank and the stone channel in exactly the way that a real riverbank would. Budget: $40 to $80 in stone and materials. A feature that solves a drainage problem and looks like garden art. Idea number 6. Whitewash a brick wall or fence. Idea number 6. The wall transformation that costs a single afternoon, a bucket of diluted masonry paint, and the decision to stop looking at a surface that has never done anything for the garden behind it. A whitewashed or lime-washed brick wall or rendered fence panel does something that plain, painted surfaces cannot. It allows the texture of the material beneath to read through the finish. The bricks or the timber grain or the rendered texture remain visible, contributing their surface interest to the overall effect, while the uniform light tone of the wash creates a consistent, bright background that makes every plant, pot, and garden element in front of it stand out with maximum clarity and color. Mix 1 part exterior white masonry paint with 2 parts water for a wash that covers without obscuring. Apply with a large brush in long strokes, working the diluted paint into every surface and joint. The coverage is intentionally uneven, thicker in recesses, thinner on raised faces, which is what creates the characteristic depth of a lime wash finish versus a flat painted one. A whitewashed brick wall behind a planted border makes every flower color more vivid and every foliage tone more distinct. It makes the garden behind it feel sunlit, even in shade, and it turns a background that was previously doing nothing for the space into the most effective planting backdrop available. Budget: $10 to $25. The background upgrade that makes every plant in front of it look more expensive. Idea number 7. Make a statement with oversized pots. Idea number 7. The outdoor styling principle that every professional garden designer applies, and almost every home gardener does the opposite of. Scale up. Always scale up. The instinct when buying outdoor pots is to buy the size that seems right for the plant going into it. The result is a collection of medium-sized pots scattered across the patio that individually look fine and collectively look like nothing in particular. Pot arrangements fail not because the wrong pots were chosen, but because the pots chosen were too small for the space they were placed in. One oversized pot, genuinely large, the kind that commands the corner of a terrace or anchors the end of a path, does more for an outdoor space than 6 medium ones. It creates a focal point. It gives the eye something to land on, and it reads as the deliberate choice of someone who understands outdoor scale. Source oversized pots from trade suppliers, salvage yards, or end-of-season sales where large stock moves at significant discount. Concrete, fiberglass in a concrete or stone finish, or genuine terracotta in a large format all look appropriately substantial. Plant with something architecturally bold: a standard olive tree, a single large phormium, a clip-bay ball on a clear stem, or a trailing plant generous enough to spill over the rim and reach toward the ground. 3 matching oversized pots in a deliberate asymmetric arrangement cost the same as 6 mismatched medium ones, and they look like a completely different level of garden. Budget: $40 to $100 per pot, depending on source. Scale is free. Use it. 7 ideas in and 8 more to go, including the bonus ideas I promised at the start. Coming up, idea number 11 involves a surface transformation that most people assume costs thousands of dollars and actually costs under $50. And idea number 14 is the one that uses something most people walk past every day without recognizing it as a garden material. Both are coming. Stay with me. Idea number 8. Lay a gravel garden under your trees. Idea number 8. The solution to the most common and most frustrating backyard problem: the dry, shaded patch under a mature tree where nothing grows, the grass dies, and the bare soil turns to mud every winter. A gravel garden under a tree costs almost nothing, installs in an afternoon, and looks intentional and considered rather than like a problem that was given up on. Clear the area of dead grass and weeds. Lay a double thickness of woven landscape fabric across the entire circle, cutting a precise X at the base of each exposed surface root to allow the fabric to lie flat around the trunk. Pour a 4-inch layer of decorative gravel, warm buff, white quartz, or slate chip, depending on the tone of your garden palette, over the entire fabric surface and rake level. Plant shade-tolerant specimens directly through cut pockets in the fabric. Ferns, hostas, hellebores, and epimedium all establish readily in the dry shade beneath trees. Edge the gravel circle with a single course of boulders or a continuous steel edging strip. The gravel circle reads as a design garden feature, a deliberate, calm, minimal planting that frames the tree trunk as the structural focal point it already is. The tree that was a problem becomes the anchor of the best-looking corner in the garden. Budget, $30 to $60. A permanent solution that looks like a design decision. Idea number 9. Hang a living wall of air plants. Idea number 9. The vertical garden idea that requires no irrigation system, no growing medium, no specialist installation, because the plants themselves need almost none of those things to survive. Air plants, Tillandsia, are epiphytes. They take all the moisture and nutrients they need from the air and from the occasional misting of water on their leaves. They root onto almost any surface. They grow without soil, and they look, in the right arrangement and the right setting, like a living installation that belongs in a gallery rather than a backyard fence. Mount a frame of driftwood, reclaimed timber, or a simple grid of copper pipe onto the fence or exterior wall. Attach individual Tillandsia plants to the frame using waterproof glue or fine gauge wire through the base of each plant. Position them at varying angles so they face different directions as they would growing naturally on a tree branch in the wild. Mist the entire installation once or twice a week. In a humid climate, rainfall alone may be sufficient. The plants will slowly establish and continue growing, sending out new offsets that cluster at the base of each plant and gradually fill any gaps in the arrangement. The finished living wall reads as a sophisticated, art-directed garden feature. The material cost is the cost of the Tillandsia plants themselves, typically $3 to $8 each, and the frame, which can be built entirely from salvage for almost nothing. Budget, $25 to $60. A living wall without the living wall price tag. Idea number 10. Paint terracotta pots in a tonal palette. Idea number 10. The styling upgrade that takes a mismatched collection of existing pots and turns them into a curated, coordinated display without replacing a single one. Plain terracotta pots painted in 2 or 3 tones from the same color family, rather than in random, unrelated colors, create the visual coherence that makes a pot arrangement look like a deliberate design choice rather than a yard sale display. Choose a palette. Warm, earthy tones, terracotta, burnt sienna, and warm cream for a Mediterranean feel. Cool mineral tones, slate gray, dusty sage, and off-white for a contemporary look. Or a single color in 3 depths, pale blush, mid-rose, and deep dusty pink, for a tonal arrangement that reads as sophisticated and considered. Use exterior chalk paint or mineral paint. Both adhere to terracotta without primer and produce a matte, slightly chalky finish that weathers beautifully over time, developing a gentle patina rather than peeling or fading uniformly. Apply 1 coat. The slight irregularity of brush-applied chalk paint on a terracotta surface is an asset rather than a flaw. It reads as artisan and handmade rather than factory-produced. Group the painted pots in odd numbers at varying heights against the whitewashed wall from idea number 6. Every element in that corner is now working together: the pale wall, the tonal pots, the planting. 3 separate decisions building one considered result. Budget, $10 to $20 for enough paint to cover a dozen pots. The styling upgrade that costs almost nothing in photographs like a professional shoot. Idea number 11. Resurface old concrete with microcement overlay. Idea number 11. The surface transformation I promised you. The one people assume costs thousands. The one that actually costs under $50 in materials and a weekend of your time. Old, stained, cracked, and tired-looking concrete is the most common backyard eyesore in residential properties. Replacing it means breaking it up, disposing of the waste, and pouring a new slab, a project that genuinely does cost thousands of dollars and requires professional equipment. But replacing it is almost never necessary. Microcement, a polymer-modified cement coating applied in 2 or 3 thin layers over an existing concrete surface. Bonds directly to the existing slab, covers minor cracks and surface imperfections, and cures to a smooth, dense, contemporary finish that looks nothing like the tired concrete underneath it. Clean the existing surface thoroughly. Fill significant cracks with a flexible concrete filler and allow to cure. Apply a bonding primer across the entire surface with a roller. Mix the microcement to a smooth consistency and apply the first coat with a wide rubber float, a thin, even layer pressed firmly onto the prime surface. Allow to dry. Apply the second coat in the opposite direction to the first. Seal with a penetrating concrete sealer after the final coat has fully cured. The finished surface is dense, smooth, and contemporary, a warm gray tone that reads as polished concrete. The kind of surface that appears in high-end outdoor living spaces and costs significantly more when professionally installed. Budget: $30 to $60 for the microcement, primer, and sealer for an average patio surface. The transformation that makes the whole outdoor space look newer. Idea number 12. Build a bamboo trellis privacy screen. Idea number 12. The privacy solution that installs in a single afternoon costs almost nothing and looks like a considered design element rather than an afterthought. Bamboo canes, cut to a consistent length and lashed in a grid or diagonal pattern to a timber frame with natural jute twine. Create a trellis screen with genuine visual character. The natural material, the hand-tied joints, and the warm tone of the bamboo against green planting read as intentional and craft-made in a way that a plastic trellis panel from a garden center simply does not. Build the frame from 2 lengths of 2x2 treated timber screwed to the existing fence posts at top and bottom. Lay the bamboo canes across the frame in a diagonal grid, 45-degree angle, evenly spaced at approximately 15 centimeters between canes. Lash each intersection with jute twine using a simple square lashing knot. The twine knots are part of the aesthetic, visible, warm-toned, and decorative in their own right. Train a fast-growing annual climber, sweet pea, morning glory, or nasturtium, through the bamboo grid from the first season. By midsummer, the screen is threaded with color, and the bamboo structure behind it has become a support system rather than the feature itself. Budget: $15 to $35. A privacy screen that looks like a garden feature rather than a fence patch. Idea number 13. Install a simple rain chain. Idea number 13. The upgrade that takes one of the most utilitarian elements of any home exterior, the downspout, and turns it into a decorative feature that sounds as beautiful as it looks. A rain chain is a Japanese-inspired alternative to a closed downspout, a series of linked cups, rings, or open forms suspended from the roof gutter outlet that guide rainwater downward in a visible, audible cascade rather than routing it invisibly through a closed pipe. Water flows from cup to cup, catching light, producing a gentle musical sound, and turning rainfall from something the garden endures into something it performs. Remove the existing downspout from the gutter outlet. Unclip the brackets and set it aside. Hang the rain chain from the gutter outlet using the included mounting hook. Position a large glazed pot, a sealed stone trough, or a rain barrel directly beneath the lower end of the chain to collect the water, which can then be used for watering. Copper rain chains develop a verdigris patina over their first season that is deeply beautiful against brick, render, and any planting with silver or green foliage. Galvanized steel chain stays a warm silver gray permanently. Simple link cup designs cost as little as $20 and are as visually effective as elaborate designs, 10 times the price. Budget: $20 to $45. The upgrade that makes rain a garden feature rather than a weather event. Idea number 14. Use found stone as garden art. Idea number 14. The one I kept promising. The one that costs nothing. The one people walk past every day. Stones. Found, collected, arranged, and placed in the garden not as functional material but as art. As sculpture. As the kind of considered, natural organic object that high-end garden designers source from specialist suppliers for significant sums and that is available free of charge, on any beach, riverbank, building site, or a country walk. A single large, interesting boulder placed at the end of a planted border reads as a sculpture. 3 smooth river stones stacked in a careful cairn at the edge of the gravel garden read as a meditative installation. A flat slab of sandstone set upright in the ground at the back of a planting bed reads as a standing stone. Ancient, purposeful, and completely arresting. The rule: large over small. 1 significant stone does more for a garden than 20 small ones. Look for stones with interesting surface texture, unusual color, or a silhouette that reads well from the main viewing angle. Flat stones that stack. Rounded stones that balance. Irregular stones with a strong form that works from multiple angles. A garden with found stone placed with intention looks like it was designed by someone who understands that not everything needs to be purchased to be valuable. That understanding, in a garden, as in most things, is itself the most expensive-looking quality of all. Budget, 0. The most impactful free upgrade in this entire video. Idea number 15. Edge your path with low-growing herbs. Idea number 15. The border planting that turns a functional path into a sensory experience, and that supplies the kitchen at the same time. Low-growing herbs planted along both edges of a garden path. Thyme, creeping rosemary, chamomile, and compact oregano do something that purely ornamental path edging cannot. They spill gently over the path edge as they establish, softening the line between hard surface and planted border in exactly the way that looks effortlessly beautiful in photograph gardens. And they release fragrance every time a shoe brushes past them, turning the act of walking through the garden into something genuinely pleasurable. Plant in plugs at 30-centimeter intervals along both edges of the path. Water in well, and allow to establish through the first season. By the second season, the plants will be touching at their edges. A continuous, low, fragrant ribbon of green and silver foliage threaded with small flowers in white, pink, and lilac from spring through to early autumn. Thyme and chamomile tolerate light foot traffic and can be allowed to creep across the path surface itself, where the paving joints provide enough soil contact. The path becomes part of the planting, and the planting becomes part of the path, the boundary between hard and soft dissolving in exactly the way that makes a garden feel natural and generous rather than rigid and maintained. Budget: $15 to $30 in plug plants. A sensory upgrade that improves every year. 3 bonus ideas that did not fit the main list but absolutely belong in this video. Bonus idea 1. Paint the inside of a raised bed in a bold color. The interior face of a timber raised bed is almost always overlooked. Painted in a deep tone, navy, forest green, or warm terracotta. The interior wall of the raised bed becomes visible as the plants grow and creates a striking color relationship between the painted timber and the foliage above it. 1 tin of exterior paint, 20 minutes. A detail that makes the vegetable garden look like it was designed. Bonus idea 2. Hang a vintage mirror on the garden fence. An old mirror in a weatherproof frame, sealed with exterior varnish and mounted at eye height on a fence or garden wall, doubles the apparent depth of the space beyond it, reflects light into shaded corners, and reads as the kind of deliberate art-directed choice that most outdoor spaces never make. Sourced from charity shops and salvage yards for $5 to $20. Bonus idea 3. Use matching ties and labels throughout the garden. Uniform plant labels, handwritten on small pieces of slate or stamped on copper tags, and matching natural jute ties used consistently across every climber, every stake plant, and every bundle of cut stems create the kind of visual consistency in the working parts of the garden that signals a level of care and attention that reads immediately as quality. Free if you cut your own slate labels from offcuts. Under $10 for a bag of copper tags. The detail that says, every corner of this garden was thought about. 15 backyard ideas that look expensive but cost almost nothing. Plus 3 bonus ideas because this list refused to stop at 15. Define zones that make the backyard read as a designed outdoor living space. Drift planting that turns a collection of plants into a composition. Solar festoon lights that change the backyard after dark every single evening for free. Steel edging that makes every bed look permanent and professional. A dry riverbed that solves a drainage problem and looks like garden art. A whitewashed wall that makes every plant in front of it more vivid. Oversized pots that command the space around them. A gravel garden under the tree that turns a dead zone into a design feature. A living wall of air plants that tends itself. Tonal painted pots that make a mismatched collection into a curated display. A microcement overlay that makes old concrete look like a high-end finish. A bamboo trellis screen built from canes and jute. A rain chain that makes rainfall something worth watching. Found stone placed with intention as free garden sculpture. And a herb edge path that makes every walk through the garden a sensory experience. Here is the thing about a backyard that looks expensive. It never happened all at once. It happened idea by idea, one Saturday at a time, one decision at a time, one corner of the garden brought into focus while the rest waited its turn. The backyards that look like serious money were almost always built on almost nothing, by people who understood that the gap between cheap and expensive looking is not a financial gap. It is a decision gap. You just closed it by 15 ideas. Drop a comment right now and tell me which idea you're starting with this weekend. Or tell me the idea that surprised you most, the one you did not expect to be as effective as it is. I read every comment and I replied to everyone. If you're new to Daily Garden Fix, welcome. This channel exists for the person who wants a beautiful outdoor space and refuses to believe that beauty is only available at a price point they cannot reach. Subscribe and hit the bell because new ideas come out every single week. Share this video with one person whose backyard is waiting for a reason to start. It might be exactly the list they needed. I will see you in the next one. Pick one idea, do it this weekend, and let the backyard catch up with what you already know it could be. Take care. Bye.